Welcome, everybody, to the Digital Dungeon Master Podcast. My name is David. I am the Digital Dungeon Master, and I have a couple of very special guests today. I've got the Tabletop Twats from on the other side of the pond, Nick and Harrison. What's going on, guys?
Yay! And I just cheered myself.
I know, that's so weird.
Thank you very much for having us on, Digital Dungeon Master. It's good to be here, back in the Dave Cave.
Cozy.
It's been too long.
It has been.
It's good. It's good to be back.
Yeah, I had barbecue last night, so I've been kind of passing a lot of gas and stuff. So
what were you barbecuing? Human
long pork.
Long pork.
Yeah. No, long pork. What is? No, I actually took some chicken thighs, boneless chicken thighs, and then basically slow cooked them in a sweet barbecue sauce, and then put some onions and peppers and man broth.
It start making me hungry. We were saying before, Dave, that you should work for Marks and Spencer's adverts for describing your food.
Nobody will know what Marks and Spencer's is over there, but they do these sensual adverts in England, and basically the way they talk about food, they talk about it like it's sweet, sweet love, and they'll be like
salted caramel fondant.
Ooh, this isn't just a sandwich. This is a cucumber sandwich, and yeah, so maybe, and last time, I think when you were on our podcast, you were talking about food, and you were talking about it in a way that made us stiff as a board.
Wow, I'm glad I could do that.
Yeah, so I'm just saying, maybe this is the wrong profession for you. You should come over here, do some ads.
It might be. I mean, there's only about 5 or 6 people that are going to probably listen to this podcast, so maybe I should probably move over across the ocean over there and maybe dip my toes in advertising or voiceovers or something. Everybody tells me that, oh my God, Digital Dungeon Master, you've got such a sexy voice. I just kind of laugh, but whatever. Because a lot of the times I don't run webcams, so I think they're probably envisioning someone like maybe a Kiefer Sutherland or maybe a Leonardo DiCaprio that's on the other side of the mic telling the story. You know what I mean?
And they won't be disappointed.
Oh, they'll be totally disappointed, Nick.
Harsh on yourself.
Well, this is why we're doing a podcast, because we're sweaty nerds.
We are already off on a tangent already. I knew that this was going to happen as soon as we started. It was going to happen. So, you guys have the Tabletop Twats podcast. So why don't you guys, tell me a little bit about what you guys do, how often you guys put podcasts out and all that other pertinent information. Inquiring minds want to know this kind of stuff. All 5 people that listen to my podcast.
Well, very similarly to this, we do a tabletop RPG podcast all about tabletop RPGs, and we try to do it in the sort of British radio tradition of having sort of a variety of different items on there. So we've got things such as Song Fight, where we battle our songs, and we've got Chamber of Challenges, where we challenge each other to do certain RPG related challenges.
What you've been slaying.
What you've been slaying, where we talk about what we've been playing. That's our prime feature. The outro is our best feature.
Well declaimed.
But yeah, we tried to we wanted to keep it like a radio show kind of format. So that's how we did it. But we didn't want to have the censorship of radio, which is why we've done it on the internet. Not that any radio like broadcasts were asking us to be on it,
No.
We would all be fired after a day being on the radio. I mean, if it was traditional terrestrial radio, we would be literally probably shooed off within the first hour.
Yep.
Yeah, that was the episode where we asked Steve Jackson for a fight, and then that would be that. We'd be done, sued. The BBC would be like, well, pack your things and go.
You've upset Steve now.
So that's basically it, yeah. That's sort of the format that we're going for, and it's all about RPGs, but classic radio style. And we just wrapped up an episode where we talked about the classic, everyone knows it, the Bible RPG, Testament.
Oh. Yeah. As in the rock group or the actual game?
No, it's a game. It's an RPG role playing in the biblical era. You can go and fight Moses if you want to. He's a 3rd level paladin.
Yep. Don't like Samson.
Nice.
I know that doesn't sound impressive, but he's a 10th level prophet of the Lord as well, so there is that.
The Egyptians have got teleport.
The Egyptians, they'll give you a teleport for 100 gold pieces.
100 GP. There's a special chariot. There's all special.
Yeah, so yeah, this is the sort of things that you hear over on our podcast. Yeah, we have great fun making it, and we really enjoy it. We got similar listenership to yours. So to the 5 listeners, no, we're really grateful of all the people that listen. It's such good fun to make.
It really is, yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm totally grateful as well.
Of course.
I mean, you got to, because without the listeners, I mean, it wouldn't be really worth doing. I mean, even if it is 5 people, it's still worth doing to me. I mean,
yeah. Otherwise, this would be totally ludicrous what we're doing now. So thank you very much to everyone listening. We love you.
Yeah,
we actually do in a physical way. So give us a ring.
Think about your time.
Totally be groping you guys if you were here with me. I mean, not you guys, but the actual listeners themselves. You know what I mean? I would be groping them. So
he would. He's been convicted for it before, ladies and gentlemen. Fact.
How'd you guys get into this whole podcasting scene? How long you guys been doing it?
Just last September.
Has it really been that long?
Yeah.
Actually, that's not that long, is it?
No. Well, was it 8 months, something like that?
Well, it feels like ages, doesn't it? Time just drags, doesn't it? No, I'm just kidding. No, but we got into it because whenever we were playing our games and stuff, we would always say to each other, "Oh, wouldn't it be fun if we did this challenge and recorded it? Or wouldn't it be fun if we shared this story with our listeners and things like this, or recorded this game or whatever?" And I think a lot of people have those aspirations that they want to record their games and things like this, but we felt that a lot of those things, like people sharing their stories or people recording their games, were underproduced and things like this, and we wanted to just do it, but do it to a slightly higher quality, or put a bit more effort in than I guess other shows that are out there. And as a result, we just started doing it, and all of our friends were like, yeah, we should do that, and all of this, but nobody ever did it. And then, so we just were like, let's actually do it. And so we did.
Yeah, so we got a dictaphone, and then carry on my house, and we my kitchen, and just started chatting about what we love. And then,
originally it was just the 2 of us talking into a dictaphone. We didn't even have a microphone. And that's why in the first few episodes, you can hear the audio quality is terrible. You can hear Nick's missus washing up in the background.
Washing machine going off.
Yeah. No, you guys do put out a lot of nice stuff. I mean, high quality stuff, and I love all the sounds and all of the noises, and it adds a lot to the show. And from another content creator, it's a lot of work to do stuff like that. So, and I can appreciate being a content creator. The things that you guys do. It's definitely top notch. So, well,
I used to make
and you wouldn't be on this podcast if you weren't top notch. So,
thank you very much. That's really kind of you to say, although it's very untrue. But when I was back in when I was in college, I used to make music mainly with the sole purpose of freaking people out, and I just did it. I just did it for fun, and as a result, I sort of all the jingles and stuff on the podcast is made by me, and sometimes with the help of Nick and stuff. But it was quite handy that I knew how to do that stuff, because me and my mate once got together one afternoon and made a band, and then we sort of like distributed CDs of it around school. Not like officially, as in getting people to buy it. We just sort of left them lying around, and the band was called DJ Shit Bitches. And
I heard some of that stuff on that website.
Oh yeah, you did, didn't you? I forget that website's still there. Don't go and look it up, anyone. It's pretty bad. No, I actually do. I don't care. Whatever. It's really funny.
It's entertaining. It is. I mean, it's not though. It's all about absolutely nothing. I mean, that's what I like about it. The banter is great.
Pretty bad.
It is brilliant.
Well, it actually taught me how to make jingles, so it helps with the podcasting.
So, I mean, how are you guys going to be? What are you guys going to be doing in the future? Are you guys going to be getting more into broadcasting, maybe live games on Twitch? Have you thought about dipping your toes in that pool, or Or are you going to be strictly sticking to podcasting, or what?
We did speak about doing. We have had some ideas about some games, haven't we, Harrison? Playing. What's it called?
We wanted to play Testament for certain, and we want to do more actual plays because they're awesome. They're just a lot of effort to make, so we're going to certainly do more of those. And we want to release another album this year because we did a music album it was this year as well, but we want to do another one this year. So hopefully we'll be releasing another album. And yeah, definitely we thought about getting onto Twitch as well. It's just the idea of it terrifies me because I don't know how any of it works, but hopefully something like that, and more actual plays this year as well. Yeah, but that is bonus content, and hopefully we can do that with the support of our awesome Patreons. We're going to do that, and they helped us to fund the Testament biblical role-playing game book that we bought. So that's going to be the next actual play that's going up on our channel. We're going to have something to do with that, which will be awesome.
Can't wait to hear that. That's going to be great.
Yeah, it's going to be weird. It's going to be a weird one.
So we're going to be doing a one-shot pretty soon in the next month. I think in July we'll record that. We're going to be doing Savage Worlds A-Team with you guys. I literally can't wait for that. Yeah, it's going to be really good. It's a very stupid story, but it's all about the fun, right? And we're going to be doing that with fun. Because you guys are part of another podcast as well, the Wild Die Podcast. And we missed you, though, Nick, when you were on about a month ago. You were in sunny Spain. Were you all oiled up, sitting on the beach, laying down, just on a nude beach somewhere, all oiled up, just checking the chicks out as they walk by? That's what I figured you were doing.
Nick is often oiled when there's no need for him to be oiled.
Often oiled in winter. So I went away with my wife and my wife's family. But no, it was very nice. Yeah, so I had a great time. I actually listened to you guys, the podcast that I unfortunately missed. I listened to it while I was on holiday. It was hilarious.
We just basically blamed everything on you anyway because you weren't there. So no, just kidding. We didn't do that.
But yeah, no, sorry I missed it. That's why I was absolutely gutted actually.
No, it's okay. We're gonna get on there and do some more rants. We're gonna actually just have a rant session with Harrison and let Eric tell us how much we're fucking up and doing everything wrong. So
we should just have an anger cast one of these days. Just have an angry cast where we can just all let it out, Because last podcast, for the listeners that don't know, on the last podcast I had a bit of a rant about Savage Worlds. I finally got to let it all out, and it was good. It felt good, man. So I think one of these days, basically Dave has become sort of like a
venting. Yeah,
you're like my psychiatrist. I just call him up every now and then and just have a little moan about something.
Stress reliever.
Last week I was talking about my relationship with my father, and he was showing me some like Rorschach blots and stuff like this. He's saying, "What do you see here?" And he said, and I said, "My father hitting me." And he said, "You sure? It doesn't look like a butterfly." And I was like, "No, Dave. I know what I saw." I know.
And I apologize about that. I mean, I didn't mean to go that deep into your mind. I mean, those are some pretty dark times for you. I mean,
sorry. It's happened again. You see how easy it is.
So we're going to talk about dungeon mastering today. I'm excited about it. So we'll kind of switch gears here. So I love DMing. In fact, I actually prefer DMing to playing now. And I never would have ever thought that if you would have told me in the 80s and early 90s that 20 years later as an adult that I would prefer DMing rather than playing, I would have told you that you were probably crazy. But the whole thing is I didn't like DMing when I was growing up because I had a couple of friends, James and Terry, that did all the dungeon mastering. They would always rotate whenever we were playing first edition, or if we were playing classic or Talislanta, Star Frontiers, they would rotate. And I saw how much work they did. And I didn't like that. I just wanted to be the typical gamer that just wanted to show up and play. But now that I'm an adult, I think I appreciate it more. And plus, we're in the year 2017. There's so much fucking cool technology out there with Fantasy Grounds and the other virtual tabletops and all these cool digital maps, tokens, and I'm like, wow, this is badass. And I like to have all this stuff, and I like to control the game. So, how do you guys feel about that? Are you guys prefer playing the DMing or what?
I was definitely the same as you back in the day. It wasn't that I preferred one to the other, but I always kind of resented having to be the DM because I was the one that got my mates into RPGing, and so I would always be like, kind of, I can't wait to be the player. One day I want to be the player. Why do I always have to put all the work in? No. And then whenever people would deviate from the story, this was like back in when I first played 4th edition, and I kind of originally got a bad impression of 4th edition and had a bad time playing it, was because I would always just spend the whole time miserable because people wouldn't pay specific attention to my story. I put in all this work. Why aren't you paying? So I think back in the day, I did resent it a little bit, but nowadays I absolutely love it, and it's because I like the ways that people alter it and what people do with it. So nowadays, I more often I DM than not, and it is because I'm the one that's organising it, or I'm the one that's got the books, and it is mainly because of that. But I actually do enjoy it more than being a player sometimes. Sometimes I prefer to be the player, but I do absolutely love it, and I guess we'll get into why later on. But yeah, more often than not, I'm the DM, and I love being able to sort of make something, and I like putting the work in. I like being able to make maps, make a story, make a dungeon or an adventure or an overall campaign, and being able to bring that to my friends and be like, hey, look at this thing I worked really hard on. And even if they mess with it, change it and things like that, I now understand, because I'm not a noob like I was 13 years ago. I now understand that it's a collaborative experience, and then when they take that thing that I've made and run with it and alter it and make it something even better, that's my favorite thing about it. And so it's really, really fun.
Yep. Nick, what about you?
Well, I've only actually been playing for about 2.5 years now, so I'm pretty new to the whole hobby anyway. But when I first started playing, I was only a player, and Harrison was DMing. And to be honest with you, I was a bit... the thought of DMing at the time scared me because I thought there was just so much to do, and you got to be so on the ball and know everything inside out and things like that. And as we played more and more and stuff, we decided that we'd start rotating GMs just to see if anyone else wanted to have a go. And so I stepped up and decided that I'd try it out and stuff. And I was pretty nervous to start off with, if I'm honest with you. But I loved doing it. I loved putting the work in. I did a zombie one because I love zombie culture and zombie games and films and books and things. So I knew it was something easy, something I'm used to. So I know quite a lot about it already. And I loved writing a story. I really enjoyed it. And ever since then, it was nerve-wracking to start with. And to be honest, I made a lot of mistakes for my first time, but being with good players as well, the guys and Harrison being a player in my game and stuff, I got a lot of good feedback, and I think towards the end I really got a lot better. And looking back now, I loved it, and it's probably 50-50 for me now. I'd happily run a game or be a player. I run some games for my family on holiday, and they were first time RPGers, and they never played before, so they really enjoyed it. So I'm definitely both sides now, I think, after that.
Hey, I've got my mom. She's going to play. My mom's going on 74 years old, and she's even going to play. She told me because she loves Frodo. She loves the Lord of the Rings. She wants to play a female hobbit, but she said she doesn't want hairy feet. She says ladies don't have hairy feet. So I said, Mom, that's the great thing about D&D. You can be or do anything that you want to. And that's the great thing about DMing. What's that?
Maybe the character has some sort of unfortunate illness where all the hair falls off of her feet.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's pretty good, actually. Maybe we'll come up with something in the background story for that, or maybe maybe she'll have like crooked toes or some shit. Maybe she was doing some kind of maybe she was in a winemaking contest, and maybe there was some kind of electrical eel inside of the vat, and it just
all the other hobbits mock her because they call her bald feet.
Bald feet.
She would actually be an outcast if she didn't have hairy feet. She probably, honestly, would probably be an outcast if she was in, Middle Earth. But
hairy feet, mate. Don't fit in.
Yeah, but what you guys were both talking about, though, the best thing about being a DM is seeing the expressions of your players. When you put all that work in there, and when you see them smiling, when you see them laughing, when you end the game on a cliffhanger, like I always do in my games, my players go, "Gah!" Or, they'll, "Gah!" because they want to keep going. That's what makes me want to DM all the time. It's just the players.
Recently, that happened to me, and it was a very, very cool moment because I was running a Deadlands game. Actually, we recently wrapped up a long-running Shadowrun campaign, and I'm now playing Deadlands with the same crew. They're kind of like these players. They like their action and stuff like that. So I thought Deadlands was a nice, similar thing because it can kind of be horror, action, whatever you want. So
yeah.
And we just wrapping up this thing where basically, to cut a long story short, they were protecting this town, and this army of bandits, they knew were going to come to the town, and they protected it by setting up all these traps, and they were standing on top of this blacksmith, firing off shots and all of this. And just as this battle had started, it was time for us to wrap up the game. And instantly everyone started saying, "Have you got work tomorrow? Have you got work tomorrow? Can we play a little bit longer?" And all of this. And I was just like, this is brilliant. I've done my job. This is what it's all about. And so we played for an extra hour, and everyone stayed up till midnight, so that they could enjoy it for an extra bit. My wife was already in bed, and we were all playing like really hushed, and it felt like being a kid again because we were just like, yeah, I wonder what happens in the battle, and then we carried on, playing this huge battle. It was really cool, and it's moments like that where it really, really hits the mark, that makes it all worthwhile. Where you've that people are really enjoying it.
Yeah, that's what really makes me keep doing it. I've only been DMing since this kind of fell on my lap about 6 years ago. Because, like what you were saying, Harrison, you basically took one for the team. No one else wanted to DM, but there were, 7 or 8 of us that wanted to play. And, I had been playing probably the most of anyone. So that's when I said, okay, I'll go ahead and I'll try this. And then it just kind of blossomed from there. And man, I'm glad that we did do that, because we were playing Neverwinter Online at the time. That game had just came out. And we wanted to roll some die, and I took one for the team, and man, I haven't looked back. I love it, and I prefer it. So to flip the coin on this, what we love about DMing. Now, are there things that drive you batshit crazy, or actually piss you off that players do? And this is sort of being a little edgy here, but hey, that's what the podcast is all about. We're just keeping it real, homies.
Yeah, that's right.
So Nick, what do you hate about, what players do?
It's a tough one because I haven't got that much experience, so there's not that much to come across. But
I will say this, Nick. I don't think that any of our regular group are going to listen to this podcast, so you can just say it because I've got one.
I don't know. Just when the game just comes to a halt and there's just too much arguing about a minuscule thing, then it just slows the game right down. The flow starts.
Grinds to a halt. Yeah.
If and it's that gets annoying when the flow gets cut off by, I don't know.
Let's say, for instance, they're like, if somebody's saying, but I had first strike, so that wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
Just because of the word first.
Yeah. And it's like, yeah, but you should have maybe reminded me at the time. And they're like, yes, I know I didn't, but I wouldn't, but I do have it, and thus it wouldn't have happened, and thus we should rewind time. And it's like, but that doesn't.
No rewinds.
Yeah, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that grinds my gears, definitely.
Yeah.
Flow kill.
Yeah, flow killers, mate.
The grind just grinds to a halt. I'll tell you what I don't like. there's really, I'll tell you what, when I first started DMing, I was a totally different dungeon master. But now that I've been doing it for 6 years now, I just kind of just go with the flow now. So I always try to be upfront with my players, though, and tell them if there's going to be any kind of rule adjudication or anything like that, let's go ahead and let's jot it down, and then we'll look it up and we'll debate this after the game. Mm-hmm. Especially when you do streaming and and podcasts and stuff like that, it will bring the game to a halt. And plus, I don't think your viewers or listeners want to listen. Well, I don't know. Maybe they might want to listen to people arguing because of the whole shock factor, but I don't think they do. So that's why I always like to keep it on the end. But what really irks the shit out of me is I've had players in the past, not in any of my games now. I mean, I am so blessed with the players that I have. I am like the luckiest dungeon master. Seriously, I am ecstatic with all of my games. How the Ghost of Dragonspear Castle's going, how I have the Yawning Portal going, my Adventures League games on Friday. I'm so fucking lucky, man. I'm serious, and I know I say that all the time, but I really am. But what irks me, I've had players in the past that, of course, we're in the technology age, and there's all these PDFs out, and the players think they're going to get one over on you, and they're going to be following along in the book. So, perfect example, i.e., I was running The Lost Mine of Phandelver, the starter box set, back in 2014. I ran that twice in 2014 because I love that adventure. And I had players that were using slashing weapons, longswords, the entire time for 2/3 of the adventure. And then all of a sudden, we hit a yellow ochre. And now all of a sudden, the slashing weapons go away and all the piercing weapons come out. Because the mechanic is when you use a slashing weapon on a yellow ochre, it splits into 2 ochres and it divides the hit points. And now they got 2. So now nobody's using longswords. Everybody's using spears and javelins for some mysterious reason. So, and then I've also had players, they'll say, Dave, that bullywug doesn't have sneak attack. I'm looking at the monster manual. I don't see sneak. I'm like, well, hey, it's my game. I can do whatever I want. It's my world. So those are the things that I don't like. Just the metagaming that goes on. And there's different types of metagaming to me. There's knowledge type of metagaming, which we all kind of do, which is okay. Mm-hmm. But when you're following along in a book, that's what kind of pisses me off.
Yeah, because it might be that particular one does have sneak attack because it's a different one. You'll learn it at some point.
Exactly.
Shut the fuck up. You don't know this. It's just like, that's what fucking pisses me off. But yeah, I mean, okay. I think with regards to what Nick said, with arguing about rules, whenever I'm behind the screen, right, I want to preserve game flow. So I think the players should make effort to preserve game flow. So I always, whenever I don't know a rule, I will make something up that I think fits, and I'll look it up for next time.
Yeah, that's exactly what I do, Harrison. Exactly.
And then next time I'll be like, oh, by the way, guys, I fucked this up. So just to let you know. And then that's it. Yeah. So I think maybe players should take a leaf from that book and do the same fucking thing. Additionally, with what the one thing I wanted to mention that really sort of hacks me off, that sometimes can be funny but sometimes pisses me off, is the ganja. Can I mention that? Actually, I'm just going to mention it. I don't care. Is the ganja. Now, Nick, this doesn't apply to you, but sometimes I have a problem with players that smoke the ganja, and if the weed. We're talking about weed, right? Mm-hmm. And it's when people, I don't mind with people that have too much, but when you have so much that you're not even playing the game anymore, that's one thing that annoys me. Because I don't mind. Everyone
in a meditating state.
Exactly. Some people, when they come out to play a game, right, they'll have a beer, they'll have a little bit of weed. That's fine by me. I don't partake in that stuff, but if you want to, then that's fine. But sometimes by the end of the night, when you have to be like, what does your character do every 5 minutes? You're like, well, it annoys me, man. It makes me
and the player has got drool coming out of their mouth and stuff, and I haven't had that problem.
I have, and
because I don't play around the table, so everything I do is virtually. Although I have heard a couple bong rips when the push to talk button has been depressed, which has been pretty cool. Won't name any names, but that was back years ago.
It was pretty funny, man. I mean, it was. I'm not going to say which game it was at, but at a game I might have played recently, or in the past, or maybe even in the future. It was funny because some of the people there liked to partake in the weed, and once the people that like that, once they've done it, they get the munchies real bad. Once I cleared away the table after the session, there was just fucking crisp dust and like bits of food all over the floor. And I had to hoover immediately after.
Not only do you have to prep all the game, now you got to clean up after everybody goes.
Yeah, exactly, because they were all munched off their face, and they had to. They were just like all this food. And just
do that face again. That was good.
Yeah, they could just barely even find their face because they were so stoned.
Not on tap.
Yeah, so that's my pet peeve.
Nice.
That's probably quite specific to me.
I'll kind of go back and actually I'll rephrase what I was saying. I don't think it doesn't piss me off. It's not like how I'll just get irate and just start fucking killing everybody with meteor swarms and Poseidon's trident or anything. It just irks me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what I mean. It's when I say piss off, it doesn't mean that my top's fixing to burst. It just means that it irks me because I put a lot of time and a lot of effort into games, and like every other dungeon master. And when people do stuff like that, it just kind of takes away from the experience.
Oh, but same goes to me. We it's like at the time you're never gonna yell at anyone or get angry or anything like this. But all we're saying is it's stuff that winds us up a little bit. But it's never at the time. We're still having a fun time. We're still having a good time.
Game.
Yeah, exactly. Never.
Yeah.
It's all about having fun, man. That's what it is. I mean,
precisely. But we're just having fun. It's just a podcast, guys. Come on.
Just imagine the comments. He said, "Piss off!" Oh my god. So what type of DM
I want to
are
smoke
you?
weed at the table and chew so all my food falls out my mouth. I can do what I want. It's my goddamn life. It's called role playing.
Speaking of which, what type of DM are you guys? Are you more of a role-playing dungeon master, or do you like to just kick indoors and roll initiative? Do you kind of balance it out, maybe a 50-50, 60-40? I myself kind of see myself as a 50-50 DM. Now, when I first started DMing, I was scared of role-playing. I thought role-playing was dorky and, all this other LARPing and stuff. I thought it was dorky, although I still think LARPing is still kind of dorky. But I was more of the traditional 1980s because I was still stuck in that time frame, you know what I mean? Because of playing in the 80s. I was more of a kick-in, roll initiative, but now I had a game, my 13th age game, that made me evolve on the spot as a dungeon master because my players, their skill set was so much higher than mine, and I'm talking from a role-playing standpoint. I had to immediately change on the spot because if I didn't, I felt that I would have lost control of the game, number one, and I probably would have lost these awesome players. And then they ended up sticking with me for 4 years. We're taking a break now, but man, so I kind of see myself more as a 50-50 type of combat and exploration / role playing. Sometimes the role playing gets a little heavy though. What do you guys?
I think I'm also balanced as well, but it depends on the group and what I feel like they want. I feel like there's another third thing as well that a lot of people never mention is roleplay, combat, and planning as well is something that I feel like there's certain groups that like a lot of planning and execution. Is a third thing that I feel like maybe often doesn't get mentioned. And so I feel like I tend to balance it depending on the group or what I feel like they want. For example, in a long campaign, like one that might last months and months and months, I'll often do a couple of weeks of this where it's more combat heavy, a couple of weeks of roleplay heavy stuff or whatever. So in the Pathfinder campaign that we did, that lasted quite a while. I think we did some sessions of just solid role playing.
I was just talking, and we didn't even move from an area, but it was
just hanging about in the town, doing some shopping, speaking to folk, investigating, and then you might have one session of just wading through a dungeon, or in the GURPS campaign, I think you had there was a mission of just this was a sci-fi campaign where you were just flying through space doing one delivery mission. Or then we've had ones, for example, in Shadowrun, we've had entire sessions where it's just planning. And to some people, that might sound like the most boring thing in the world. But having a bunch of people just sitting there talking through the information they've got and coming up with a perfect plan where they've thought of every eventuality, to some people, that is their dream. That's what they want to do. And to see that go off without a hitch is so much fun. And so I do it depending on what the group I feel like they want. That's what I'll do, and I think that's the most fun. So with regards to role play, it's always going to be in there no matter what. But it'll be as to how heavily I lean on that will be as to what I feel like they're after that session. I'm currently in the midst of a vampire campaign, and I feel like that is an RPG that specifically leans heavy on the role play. Although we have had a couple of combat heavy sessions. That is, I did warn everyone beforehand, the strength of this game is roleplay. So this campaign specifically will be more roleplay, but there have been action segments. And so I've tried to diffuse it with some action, some comedy, things like that.
Yeah, we had an entire fight session, didn't we? And it was come away from sessions like that quite worn out. And I think role-play heavy games, you come away with them with a different mentality almost. Not better or worse at all, but it's always, you're right. It's always nice to have a good balance between the two, I think.
But if it's a game that leans heavily on roleplay and its strength isn't in its combat, you can always do investigation and planning to break up the roleplay. So if the players are tired of doing the voices and things like this, you can just say, right, you can have an out-of-game chat now and chat about what you're going to do. Yeah. And we did a bit of that last game, didn't we? Where we I had all of them say, right, this is all the information you've got. How are you going to track down the bad guys? And then they just chat about it. So,
and plus, as a DM, you feed off that kind of stuff. You know, when you see the players, when they're engaged into your game, and when they're actually really strategically planning all of the options, weighing all of the options, you know that you've done your job as a DM because you've presented them all of this data, all of this information, and now they're taking it, and now they're moving on with it. And that, man, that's what I feed off of. I'm like, I'm just smiling the whole time, you know, as I'm listening to them banter back and forth. Or, no, maybe we can do this. Or, no, but what about this, like my Ghost of Dragonspear Castle game? You know, they just have walked into the fane of the Sun Swallower, and they're trying to find a black dragon that attacked a keep. So they have one of the dragon's spawn, a wormling, actually took right to one of the adventurers, and it's now following around like a lost puppy, you know. So they're already weighing all of their options. Well, and plus they have an NPC that's kind of trying to throw a monkey wrench into things because, you know, you got to have a little bit of drama in your game. So that's what I love, you know, and they're already starting to weigh their options and stuff. So
I will say this though, even if you have the most dry game on the planet that has no story, it still can feel like a role-playing game in that you have way more choice in combat as to what you could do than a video game, for example.
Yeah. Because
I played a game, and I'll keep this brief, but I played a game. It only lasted a couple of sessions. I'd say it was an adventure, not a campaign, where my wife DM'd, and she found role-playing, like you said, to be a bit cringy because she was new to it. And so she just said, basically, this old guy told you there was some treasure here. You're going to go and do the dungeon, and that was it. And so, but we were just fighting stuff, but it was still fun because instead of just in a video game where you're given the option just to fight, use magic, or do whatever, we still were ripping table legs off and making shit out of it, doing whatever the hell we wanted. I mean, it was still felt like an RPG because you had options, character options, and things like this. So it was still fun. So I don't think anyone should ever be ashamed if they're playing an RPG and are not so heavy on the R and are more about the G, you know?
Yeah, I always gauge the players up, you know. I can see if they're role players, if they're not. And if I know that they're not, And this is a great tip for any dungeon master out there, because you're going to know your players eventually after a couple of sessions. And if they're not a heavy role player, don't force it on them. What I mean? Do not force it on them. But if they are a heavy role player and if they love this stuff, then chances are there's going to be a little bit more dialogue between your NPCs and those particular players that love to role play. But then again, this could also help the other players that are not role players because they're going to see how fun this is. And then they're going to say, and perfect example for this for me is my Thursday night game that I don't stream. That's a bunch of guys that play Out of the Abyss 5e. They were not role players at all. I mean, these guys were literally delvers and kicking in the door and rolling initiative. They were, even during dialogue, they're asking to roll initiative. These guys are tactical. They love combat. They still love it, but now they're actually starting to role play now. There's an intelligent weapon in the party. They're starting to do some more role playing. So it seems like it's starting to wear off on them, and it makes me feel good.
That's good.
Yeah, but you just have to know your players. Gauge your players. Take notes on your players if you need to. I keep books. I keep notes all over the place. So you just gotta, once you know your players, then you can you customize your game to basically fit their needs. And
do you remember
doing that?
Do you remember the beginning of? Do you remember the beginning of the film Seven?
Oh, absolutely! One of my favorite movies of all time.
Do you remember all the notes and stuff like that?
Yeah.
I imagine you keeping notes on your players is a bit like
that. Not in a creepy way, though. Well, sometimes they are creepy. I have this book. This is all full of notes from my games. That's a lot of notes.
That is actually
6 years worth of games that I keep notes on.
That is actually genuinely good advice. I mean, well, I would say that in our group at the moment, we got a player that was not that into the role-playing aspect to begin with. And it wasn't that he didn't want to. It's just that he was maybe a little bit shy because he was new to the group. And now he's getting well into it.
Perfectly normal, yeah.
And we had some...
I started. I was a bit shy on the role-playing bit. But for me now, personally, as a player... I'm more swing towards. I enjoy role playing more than fighting. If I'm honest with you, I love fighting as well, but I do the role playing part of it. For me, is the best part of the game.
Exactly.
I had a player about 5 years ago. Won't mention any names, but he had a massive social anxiety problem, and this is something he and I talked about. And on a personal level, I wanted to help him just because of the human part of me. Wanted to help him, and I was thinking, okay, maybe this could help him. And by the end of our game that we played for a year and a half, he was still, you could tell that he was still nervous about things, but he had made so much improvement that it was a difference between night and day. And after our game, a couple of months after, he actually sent me a nice email thanking me for helping him with his social anxiety, because now he even had gotten a job in the public and he was speaking to people all the time. And I thought it was awesome that he sent me an email thanking me because of a game that we love so much called Dungeons and Dragons, or whatever tabletop game you play. And it was nice that he took the time and sent me that. That's the kind of stuff that makes me love doing what I'm doing.
But it does actually teach you how to be more confident. It really does.
Yeah.
It really is a confidence tool.
It does. Because if you think about it, your character is somebody that you cannot be in real life. You can't cast magic. You can't go and kill 30 people. Oh, easy there, Tom Cruise. I mean, or is it Charlie Sheen? You're a warlock, right? Charlie Sheen's a warlock, I think. So he can cast magic.
I used to work with somebody that told me that she could cast magic, and I once pissed her off, and she said she was going to put a spell on me. So I'm convinced that one day I'm just going to explode.
There's a wizard that lives in my town.
Oh, there is, isn't there?
Yeah.
What about him?
God.
He once didn't he open the Christmas lights or something?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it like, sort of like a town weirdo or something, or?
Yeah, he is basically, yeah.
Surrounding full wizard garb with a staff and everything, yeah. So just the Wizard of Sutton.
Yeah, basically once a year, every time they turn on like the city's Christmas lights, the town gets to vote on who it is, and they voted for him.
Oh yeah.
Very nice. Holy crap. So you guys mainly play around the table, right?
Mm-hmm.
You don't play a lot of virtual tabletop, or?
Well, we do have a bi-weekly Warhammer Fantasy role-play game that we play with Eric Lamoureux. Once a year, well, twice a year we go to the old Fantasy Grounds Con. But yeah, we're mainly around the real.
You're doing it wrong. Sorry about that.
Sorry, man. I know you're the digital DM, and I apologise about this, but no, we. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I'm fortunate enough to have a good solid group of people. The thing is, once they're dead, I don't know what I'm going to do, because I will have to start resorting to playing online. But I mean, I'm lucky enough to know quite a few people online as well. Like, I've played in Manuel Sam's the Veil Fury RPG show. I played in his game as well.
Yes.
Online. Yeah, I've played with Bill Lear, who one of my friends have played in his Warhammer game. Like, we played in plenty of online games. I know quite a few people, and you as well were playing in your one shot, which is awesome. So I'm lucky enough to have quite a good mix, but I say mainly I do play in the meat space.
I've done nothing but DM online. You know, I live in a city where there's a lot of seniors. So if I really want to play D&D, we have a game store, but it's all Magic the Gathering. They really don't even have anything Adventures League or Pathfinder Society or, the Newman Era. So I would have to literally go
down
and
there, man.
Oh my gosh.
Kick over some tables.
We should go and we would need about 6 or 7 players. So what we would do is we would all maybe dress up as orderlies, and then we would have to basically break into a senior center and then hold them at bay and hold them at hostage so we could actually play a game of D&D. That's what.
Yeah, but we'd point ones at them. Don't move or I'll use this.
I haven't played though. I haven't played around the table since my friends and I would love to. I would love to play around the table, but I just don't have the people.
You're visiting England at some point now, aren't you?
I'll be going to Europe probably towards the end of next year. Yeah.
Oh, there you go. So that'll be an opportunity. I'll run a game and we'll play together.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that would be a blast, man.
To the pub.
Yeah, actually, there's a monthly session in our local pub of Call of Cthulhu, so we could play there, and that would be awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I would totally do that. That would be great. So, a lot of new DMs, they really don't know what they need to get started, right? And seeing that you guys play around the table, what kind of tools do you guys use to help you out? And I have a lot of these tools also, but nobody to play with. And I've had these tools for a long time, but what do you guys use when you're DMing? Okay,
well, first and bloody foremost, you need a DM screen and some dice. But a DM screen could be anything. You need you do need a could just be a bit of cardboard, right? But you need to hide your rolls, because you need to hide that stuff so the players don't see behind the curtain and know what's going on behind there, because you're taking notes, you're seeing doing stuff like this, and stuff is going to get ruined. Of course, you need the rule books too. Of course, you're going to need that for whichever game you're playing. But as any podcast out there will ever tell you, you're going to need the rule books, but you can get free ones as well and all of that stuff. But get a DM screen or just a bit of cardboard to hide your rolls or whatever. And any DM worth their weight in salt will have a cape.
Ooh.
No, I don't know about that.
Yeah, I don't have a cape, so I guess I'm screwed on that one.
With regards to I don't know, things, other tools as well, you should probably get some graph paper, which is 1 inch squared, for maps and things. Some people, a lot of games will use them for miniatures and things like this, for battles and stuff like that. But you don't necessarily have to have those. We've done it when we played in the pub and stuff, when I've forgotten to bring minis and stuff, because my brother DMs those games and he's never bought any minis, and he always asked me to bring mine, and I've forgotten them, and we've just used coins Yeah, but who cares?
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
But we've just done that, whatever, and you can just draw your maps and stuff onto that paper. But that's really about it, isn't it? I guess for the basic stuff.
We like
Dice.
to use, if we've got them, they're a luxury. But on the whole, the main thing is a map. We always have a world map, at least, that's been drawn, so we get an idea of the world. Or printed off, yeah. But apart from that, it's like they're all luxuries, I suppose, and bonus extras. But the minis and stuff are a lot of fun if you've got them available. We've played with games with minis before and done big map battles and things like that, and they're fun if you need them, but they're not necessary.
But yeah, so for your game, I would say, that's probably a good one, Nick. Is probably world map, DM screen, dice, and that's about it, really.
Mm-hmm.
Like the basic equipment. If you're going to DM something, that's what you need, isn't it?
Yeah.
You can go the miniature route, but it can get expensive. And you playing Warhammer, you know that Warhammer shit can get pretty expensive pretty quickly. So
I'll tell you what's a good one. If anyone has a copy of the board game Carcassonne, you know that one?
Yeah.
Carcassonne? No. Mm-mm.
Oh, well, it's a good one for minis because if you just already have a copy of it. But a good tip is repurposing minis from other games because everyone has board games lying around, right? And Carcassonne's quite a good one because there's these little wooden minis that are just tiny little people that are wooden and they're different colours. So you can just put them down and say the red ones indicate the goblins, the blue ones indicate the ogres.
Yeah.
Simple.
Yeah. That other game.
D&D box set. Yeah, the D&D box set that you bought. The game.
Yeah, that's a good one as well. But yeah, little things like that. So if you are after minis and if you do need them,
games,
yeah, they're always good. Things like that. But Carcassonne was only 20 quid, so I mean that was a pretty decent one. But yeah, I mean, with regards to like tools for DMing, I mean that basically paper is your friend, and 1-inch graph paper. You go to any stationery store, they'll charge you £5 for a big stack of them. If you work anywhere that has a printer, you can print 1-inch graph paper for free because the worker's never going to find out, the bastards.
Yeah. And as a DM, another great tool, how about highlighters? Highlighter markers.
Yes.
That's something I do. Because I like to, when I'm looking around and I have everything out in front of me, I like to be able to identify things quickly. So I use like an orange highlighter for all the names. I just highlight all the oranges, their names. Anything blue is like secretive information that the party can find out. I do yellow, public information. You know, if they're walking into the room, you know, there's puddles on the floor, you can hear the water dripping, and you know, you see the moss growing on the walls. And then I do pink, I do for loot. So everything is coordinated, color coordinated in front of me. So that helps me from a DM's perspective to keep the game going, because I can just easily just look around. Okay, this is this. And then another good thing that I have are the 4th edition tiles. They're really cheap. Mm-hmm. I mean, these things are literally $12.99 a box, and I've got about 8 boxes that I'm going to be giving away pretty soon. And these things are great. They're double-sided. They're very, very, very inexpensive. And if you don't want to go the miniature route, miniatures can get expensive. I mean, some miniatures, especially when you start talking dragons and shit like that, they're going to be $20, $30 a piece. But there's a cheap alternative to that. I mean, like you were saying, you can get board games, you can get poker chips, you can use checkers, or even you can go to Paizo, or even any of the, maybe Kobold Press, and now they're selling the Pogs. The Pogs with the little stands, and they're super cheap. I mean, you can get 300 monster Pogs for $15 and you get a bunch of stands. So, I mean, and there's even some really fancy, clear, transparent, plastic see-through Pogs, too, that have stands. I think Arcanite Gaming or something sells them.
But I would always say that in the case of when you don't have the specific mini fitter thing, just get more descriptive. Sometimes it's nice. When you got the specific mini, you can just say, 3 goblins come out, because you've got 3 goblin minis. But if you don't have that, and you just have, let's say, a blue disc in place of that counter, you just have a counter that's a blue disc or whatever, you just put it down. You just say this thing comes out, it's horrific and disgusting, and it's got dripping whatever teeth that have all this saliva, and it goes onto the floor and it stinks like a fart or whatever. And then your players are going to remember that, and they won't go, oh, remember that fight we did against the blue disc? No, they're going to be like, oh, remember that disgusting creature we fought earlier?
Exactly.
So don't worry too much. Props are nice, but the essentials are the basics first and foremost. In fact, half of the time I got a drawer full of stuff that I don't even use, and more often than not I'll just be like, can I be bothered to wade through all of this to find specific stuff? Yeah, sometimes, but more often than not, no.
Well, didn't we? We had a tree fight, and you just borrowed like a bit decorative tree, and it was good.
Oh
enough.
Yeah, I didn't.
Oh hell yeah!
That looked like a tree.
So it works to show the size of it and that, and yeah, it was good. It was fine, wasn't it?
Yeah, you can get creative. Charity shops as well often have minis. My brother picked up a bunch of military minis.
Yeah, tanks.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it cost him £2.50, and it was a bunch of military ones. But inside the bag, it was like an opaque bag. But inside the bag, there was also Daleks, Cybermen, and a bunch of sci-fi minis that were in there. So somebody's obviously just got all their minis, put them in a bag. So he's got a bunch that he can use for sci-fi stuff as well. So
yeah, check those thrift stores and check those Dollar Tree stores too, because they, if you want to go and get some miniatures, check out just the animal miniatures. I mean, you can get a big plastic bag of giraffes and elephants and stuff for $1. And also, I've also seen monsters, and the paint jobs look like Stevie Wonder painted them and all, but hell,
but
you can throw some more paint on there.
Anyway.
Yeah,
exactly.
But for a couple bucks, I mean, you can find all kinds of stuff in that. The Army Men. I mean, hell, you could even use Army Men for D&D. Just call them New Orcs. I mean, what the hell?
Doesn't really matter as long as it's there to represent something. It just shows you where the position is on the map. That's what you want it for.
Yeah, if it resembles the thing you're describing, all to the better. But you just use your.
I'd say the most important thing is a DM screen.
Yeah. There are a lot of tools, and they can get super, super expensive. Getting all of the, I mean, you can even buy decks of cards, for the different games. Savage Worlds has decks of cards. Numenera has decks of cards for everything. Big battle maps, the big Chesic rollout grids. There's just so many things that you can get. It's just crazy. So it just depends on you as a DM what you want to use.
Because you can go minimal or go large. Like you said, depends on what you want to do.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I would go large. If I was going to do a 4E game around the table, I would totally go large. I have all the class token packs, the tiles, the power cards.
Players really appreciate
senior citizen. When I hit the lottery, when I check my lottery ticket here, when I win, I'm going to fly you guys over, and we're going to hold up a senior center.
Yeah.
It's going to happen.
You got your wand, Harrison?
I actually do own a wand. Yeah, it's right there. See that box on my shelf there? This is not good for an audio medium, but yes, I have the Luna Lovegood wand from Harry Potter. No shame. # no shame.
Proud fan.
So what do you guys do to prepare? How do you guys mentally have to prepare? Do you just do all this impromptu? What kind of preparation does Nick and Harrison do when you're running your games?
Usually an hour of meditation. Oh, right, for games. Just
some ganja in an hour. That's all you need.
That's about it, really. Nick, you want to go first?
I think when I did my first campaign, I definitely over prepared because I didn't know what I was doing. Because it was my first time. I wrote out far too much information. I really enjoyed doing it, but I don't think I needed that. Looking back now, when I do it again next time round, I think you just get an idea and then you feed off your players. Prepping, I think again you just got to remember where the story is or where the story's led up to. So you've got all the information because you can't rely on your players to remember everything. Not all people like taking notes and things like that. So if your players are stuck and you can't remember either, you're a bit stuck. So always remember the key facts from the game before, and just I think I like from now on. I think I'll tend to more go with the flow of the game rather than having it all prepared and all written down and everything. So just get an idea. Just get an idea of what the mission is, what the grand scheme is, so in your mind, and just where they were before, and what they're doing.
Because your players are gonna. Oh, go ahead, Harrison. Sorry about that.
No, I was just going to say that was one of the things I kept on saying to Nick is when it comes down to preparation. Beforehand, I kept on saying just prepare each session. Don't prepare loads in advance because it's never ever going to happen like you think it is.
Yeah.
But you've done it anyway.
Your eyes are always bigger than your stomach. You'll say you're preparing for a 3-hour session, and it's actually like an 8-hour session. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I definitely over-prepared the first time round, but you don't need to do that. Definitely not. Looking back, I'd tone that right down, I think.
And plus, whatever you have prepared, your players are going to do everything totally opposite of what you prepared anyway. So, and you're going to have to try to guide them to get back on track. And that's what I always do is, even though that they want to do something else, I always accommodate them, but it always goes back to where I want them to go anyway. So even though they're getting their way, I'm getting, it's perfect medium between a player and a DM. So yeah, your players are always they're going to change things up on you. They're always going to do things that you don't expect. So prepare light.
Yeah, because it's like on that session, you let them do whatever they want, have all their fun. And then in the week running up until the next one, with your preparation, you can kind of get them back on track. And be like, oh, this guy comes up and he tells you to do this. And they're like, all right, cool.
Yeah.
Enjoy the deviation. Don't
exactly.
Don't get put out by it because it's not going to what you expected it to do. Just enjoy where it's going and feed off that, because deviation from your story might grow even better stories that you wouldn't have even thought of until your players start deviating from your path.
But if you don't like people deviating from your story, write a book.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, how I prepare for a game typically is what I would do is mostly and I know this is kind of dumb, but it's mostly just thinking about it for a long time. And what I would do is just while I'm out walking or in the bath or anything like this. I know it's kind of weird, but like it's just thinking about it until I'm happy with an idea. I don't tend to jot a lot of stuff down because I've got quite a good memory for this kind of stuff anyway. And once I've got a good idea in my head, then I will draw maps, do a kind of a flow chart of where I think the events will go. And for each session, I'll kind of have 5 to 7 scenes in mind. And I'll draw out any maps that I think will be needed for that session, and that's about it. If I'm doing a larger campaign, of course, I'll draw any world maps that are necessary. So, like for this city, and this city, and then I'll have those prepared for the whole campaign. And then for any smaller maps, I'll draw those for each session as it comes. Because, like I said, there's no point in preparing for 3 sessions at a time because everything's going to go crazy and going to deviate anyway. So I'll just do 1 session at a time, and I'll basically think about it for a few days until I'm happy with what I think makes sense. And then I'll get drawing and I'll think about how it's going to go, what characters to come up with. And then I'll take notes maybe a couple of days in advance and of character names, what they're like, things like this. And I'll note it all down in my book and then have it on the day. And then when I'm drawing the maps, after I've done that, I'll create all any relevant characters that they might fight or that they might come up against.
Yeah. I do the same thing. I prepare ahead of time, and I use, like I said, a lot of the different color highlighters and stuff. Mm-hmm. And that's how I prepare, and I don't go into grave detail. I really don't. I could if it was something that I was actually writing, I could, but I like to try to keep it at a minimum because there's a little bit more work when you're doing a virtual tabletop game than you are while you're around the table, because you've got all of the maps you're trying to prepare and decorate up and, stuff like that, trying to get the content into the actual fantasy grounds, or if you're using Roll20 and not. So that's what I do. I make sure I have all of the content down. That's how I prepare. I get any kind of maps ready that I need. And I try not to prepare too much in advance because I know the players are going to change things up. And then as another thing that I like to do, which is another good thing for you new DMs out there, keep a couple of sheets of paper with you, or actually keep a little notebook, because I like to jot notes down. I have a lot of ideas come to my head all the time, and I have a good memory, and I can remember most of them, but I always jot things down. I even have, seriously, by my bed, if I have a dream or something and I wake up, I'll jot something down. I've done that several times. Even if I'm out, I always carry something and I jot that, because, hey, you could always use that later on. You know, I'll even prepare ahead of time a couple of pages of names for NPCs, because your players are going to say, "What's his name?" You know, and I just look over at my humans or elves or dwarves, and there it is. There's a name, and then I'll check it off. But then you can also, as a DM, you can reverse it on your players. You know, instead of you saying what the name is, okay, sure, you meet this dwarf Smithy. You tell me what his name is. So you kind of put them on the spot. You make them use their noggin, and then they will tell you what the name is, and then you jot it down. So, you know, I always like to engage my players that way too. Like when they walk into if they're walking into an alchemist store, I have them give the players the description of what they see. So, and then I'll kind of go around and do that with all of the players. So,
I know this might sound slightly patronizing, but I've heard that a lot of parents find success doing that with their kids as well, because apparently a lot of kids don't like it when they're just having stuff described to them constantly, and apparently
being told what to do.
Yeah. And apparently when parents are just like, okay, well, what do you think the shop looks like? And they'll be like, oh, it's massive, and he's got a pet unicorn on the counter, but it's only tiny. It's a tiny one, and it rides a bike. And then the parent will be like, okay, cool, that's what the shop looks like now, I guess.
And it's got a rainbow neon light coming out of its ass, Mom. I mean, it's awesome. It's the best unicorn ever.
So that's a tip if you're playing with kids, I guess.
So do you guys have any final tips for new dungeon masters out there? What kind of advice can you give young Javier, the Iberian, young boy that's getting into? He is, that's Lamoureux. You guys are still recruiting one for the Wild Eye podcast, I heard, right? You guys are.
We're trying, man. We've had a lot of interviews. None of them are up to scratch yet.
I think you guys were looking for an Algerian also. So what kind of?
We're trying to collect the whole set. But tips for new DMs. I would say my number one tip is I think we've already said it plenty of times, but it's basically enjoy the deviation and always say yes. Now this doesn't mean that whenever somebody wants to do something that you say yes, you did it. It means always allow them to try anything they want, even if it's stupid and even if it's dumb. Let them try it. Yeah. And if you're sitting down, for instance, to play a game of Vampire, and you think, oh, let's play this super serious game, and you think, oh, I want to be serious and I want to play this serious game, and all your friends are messing up your game, and you want it to be serious, and you shut the fuck up, and they because if they want it to be a laugh and they want it to be stupid, let it happen. Say yes, because if you're ruining everyone's fun, right, the whole group's fun, just because you think it should be dark and gothic and serious and emo, then you're an idiot. And that is my final closing thoughts. I don't think that it should be all one person's thing. It's a collaborative thing, and I think that a DM should say yes every time a player wants to try something. Always let them, even if the odds are stacked against them, because a DM just saying no is silly. Like when if you make a puzzle, don't have one solution. In fact, have no solution. Let the players come up with one and say yes. That's my thing. I that when it comes down to it, that's when the players are going to have the most fun, not when you're telling them no all the time and that they can't do shit, because that's not how the world works. The world will let you try anything. If you want to try and fly flapping your arms as hard as you can by jumping off a building, the world will let you try that. You will inevitably fail unless you flap really hard, but the fact of the matter is that it will let you try, and that's how your RPG should function.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Nick, what about you? What kind of advice can you give to new dungeon masters out there?
One of the things I would probably say is definitely don't be shy to steal stuff from things you really like. We spoke about before. If it's, there's loads of great TV shows out there, books, films, and there's so many potentially great ideas for RPGs that even if you steal it and put it into your RPG, it's not just not just nicking it. You're inserting it into a game for players, and they will love it, especially if they get the reference or whatever. Don't be afraid to borrow things from all sorts of mediums, because they can only make the game better. And it's not pirating anything. It's people want to see these people, or they want to get the references, or nostalgia is a great thing as well. And I think tapping into stuff like that really helps with your games.
And putting your spin on it as well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
absolutely.
And it's like how many times I was saying this the other day about the Deadlands scenario that I put them in, with the having to defend a small town thing. Mm-hmm. We've seen it so many times in so many Western films and all of this. But the thing is, we haven't role played it too many times, or at least they haven't. So it's like, yes, I'm stealing an idea, and yes, I'm stealing an idea that's become such a cliche, it's unbelievable. But these guys haven't played a Western RPG before, so let's have fun with it. Now they can do it in any way that they want. So it's like, it's different.
When you're watching a film with someone and they're like, "Oh, I wouldn't have done that. No, that's stupid. I would have done that." It's like, well, here you go.
Now let's see what you do.
Show me what you do. Then. Yeah. Exactly.
It's fanning like the hammer, Savage Worlds. It's awesome, man. Fan that hammer.
How about you?
I got a few tips. The first one, and you mentioned this, Nick. This is the most important thing, and this is what I always tell people in the comments section. Ask me in Twitch chat, messages. Don't be afraid to fuck up. You are going to fuck up. I don't care who you are. The Matthew Mercers out there, the Chris Perkins, they all fuck up. Every DM will mess up. Don't be afraid to, because you're going to. Mm-hmm. And don't be afraid to admit that you messed up too. You don't have to be a dick with your players about it. I wouldn't do that anyway, because you want them to play in your game, and if you're being I guess you could say well, we'll just keep it clean, mean, then you're going to lose players. But don't be afraid to mess up. Also, if you're new to DMing, try to find players that are new to D&D. Although I will say, having someone with a lot of knowledge about gaming is also good, because you can use them as your living PDF or your living wiki for any kind of like rule adjudication or any kind of, rule calls. So it is okay. Yeah, exactly. It's okay to have an experienced player, but don't just jump right into a game with 6 people that have been playing D&D for 20 years and they want to multi-class to the nth degree, which multi-classing school, that's going to be a whole nother podcast, believe me. But try to get new players and you'll learn the game together. They'll learn playing, you'll learn DMing. It works out. Just like Harrison said, say yes. It feels good to say yes. Well. Mm-hmm.
The final tip I wanted to say was do one-shots. For Christ's sake, do one-shots, because it will allow you to learn from your mistake and then rejig the whole thing instead of like the thing. Because I've seen it happen before. I mean, Nick, for example, with your campaign, you did a good job, but you got quite stressed out with it, didn't you? And by the end, like you said, you felt like you made some major improvements and stuff like that. And obviously you really did, because you were brand new to DMing and you got much better. And the same goes for James. He was a brand new DM, and both of them jumped right in at the deep end and did full-on campaigns, lasting
Nice.
in Nick's campaign, what was it, like 5 months?
Yeah.
And our friend James was 3 to 4 months. And it's like, major applause and a major pat on the back for doing it. But damn, that must be stressful as a new DM.
Yeah, it was.
And I wouldn't recommend anyone do that, and definitely not. What you should do is jump in, do some one-shots, because you can jump in, and that's you playing an adventure, a story from beginning to end, and going, okay, what went wrong? Next time I do it, I do this. And next time I do it, okay. And if I wanted to do a long one, it's basically just a series of those that connect to make a story. Oh, I see. And now I could do it like this, and that's how you would do it. And I think that if you're going to jump in at the deep end and do a whole campaign, that's going to be hard. A lot of the new DMs are forced to do that, unfortunately. But maybe try, if you can, just to run a one-shot for your group. Maybe you play with a group that already has a DM and just say, hey, would you mind, while we're taking a break, if I could just run a one-shot? And maybe that could be your new DM experience.
Yeah.
If you are with new players, as well as you're DMing as well for the first time or whatever, one shot's really handy because it's going to keep your players engaged. If you're coming back every session to do a completely new story, getting into role playing for the first time, and it's always fresh and new because you're doing one shots and you can let loose and whatnot more so than you can in a campaign, I think it will keep new players engaged.
Or you could do what I did with the I'm currently doing with the Shadowrun and my Deadlands campaigns, is that instead of having an overarching campaign, they're kind of campaigns, but they're linked one-shots, which include the same characters. So they're Monster of the Week type campaigns.
Nice.
So with the Shadowrun one, every week it would be a new run, and with the Deadlands one, they're basically sort of mercenaries for hire, and every week it's a new job kind of thing.
On new
Very
players
nice.
when you're not locked in campaign.
Yeah,
right? And
exactly. Yeah, the sole reason, the reason for that was so that if people wanted to turn up one week, then they could, and if players were going to drop out one week, then they could, and that was it. So that's not really part of the tip, but the point is that maybe if you wanted to structure your campaign like that, then it would be much easier for you to correct the things that are wrong.
And if you're doing that kind of thing publicly also, and where you have an influx of players coming in and out, say at like a game store, it's only going to give you more experience as a DM, because you are going to have more players that you've gamed with, and you're going to learn more and more things about the different types of players.
Yeah.
And what players do, what you can do to, to kind of aid them, maybe to help them, maybe even to accommodate them, because not every player is the same. There are many different types of players.
Absolutely.
So yeah, you'll get experience, and it only helps probably a little bit more on an online setting, because most of the time, say if you're on Fantasy Grounds on the forums or in the calendar, you get a lot of different people all the time. So it will help you.
Yeah. Yeah, and that would be awesome. That's how I would recommend anyway. I mean, just jump. But a lot of people are unfortunately forced to jump in and do a big campaign, because you've bought all the books and things like this, and and you've got this group together. And if that is the case, I would say maybe just try not to get too stressed out, I guess. And like David said, just when you're wrong, hold your hands up and admit you're wrong. Don't argue with your players, and just say, look, let's keep it this way this week. I'll look up the rule for next week. Let's just carry on.
Yeah. Give them a couple of bennies, or maybe an inspiration or something, and say, hey, I goofed up. Sorry about that. Don't be afraid to admit it. But the last thing that I guess I could probably add is, as a DM, always be consistent. You have to be consistent. If you're going to adjudicate something one way, you need to do it all the time. And also make sure that you have some house rules. House rules are fun as well. You can do a lot of things. Just because house rules are one way, say in 5e inspiration, I have a bunch of different things now that I do with inspiration, instead of just what the player handbook says, where you have to beforehand, you feel inspired to get an advantage on a skill check, attack, or saving throw. I'll let my players re-roll. Sometimes I'll let them re-roll their damage. Now I allow them to buy a first level spell slot one time per session, or I let them do a hit dice heal. So, house rules, but be consistent. And don't be afraid to mess up.
Absolutely.
So, Harrison, Nick, you guys are awesome. I love you guys. We're going to have to do this again. I appreciate you guys coming on. I really do.
Thanks,
it's been fun, man. Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you very, very much.
Why don't you guys go ahead and plug all your stuff, man? Let us know how to get in contact with you and all of your websites and stuff like that. All of the... Never mind. I'm not going to say it. All the porn sites you visit and stuff.
Oh, we don't need to plug those, man. They're doing all right. But I did want to plug something a bit weird. Aliens versus Rednecks is a brand new plug and play adventure for Savage Worlds that I co-wrote with Eric Lamoureux, and you can find that on DriveThruRPG now. It is awesome, and you play as aliens with weird powers trying to capture a prom queen beauty pageant winner in a rural redneck town in America. And it is so much fun, your head will fall off. Mm-hmm. So it's pay what you want, and you can get that on DriveThruRPG now, and it is very, very fun. So go and check that out. Additionally, Nick, we do a podcast, don't we?
We do a little podcast called the Tabletop Twats. You can get as always. We love the electro letters, so you can get in contact with us at tabletoptwats@gmail.com. Drop us a line.
And go and listen to us on SoundCloud or iTunes. Just search for Tabletop Twats. And we would highly recommend that you listen to the last episode about Testament biblical role playing, because we think it's a good one, and we had such a laugh making it.
Yep. And if you like the songs, like we said before, from Songfight, then do pop over to Bandcamp and check out Ear Garbage, which is our first album.
Yes, that is. Yeah, just go to Bandcamp and search for Tabletop Twats, and that is also pay what you want, which means that it's basically free because only one person has bought it so far.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't care. Who gives a shit? Don't buy it. Don't buy it. It's not worth it. But go and listen to it.
But do appreciate the cover art, because it's fantastic.
Yeah, we didn't draw that. It was drawn by somebody with talent.
Yeah.
And we'll get all of those links down in the description below. So, Nick, Harrison, thanks again. I can't wait until we play the Savage Worlds A-Team one-shot. I can't wait to see Gary play B.A. Baracus. Mr. T as Gary Coleman. That is going to be fucking insane.
That is going to be horrible.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Thanks for listening. I appreciate it. And until next time, keep it savage and happy gaming. See you guys.
Bye-bye.
See ya.